She worked quietly at one of the busiest restaurants in town. Every night, she packed what everyone else threw away. Leftovers meant for the trash. Nobody knew why. Nobody cared to ask. But one night, her wealthy boss followed her. And what he saw that evening changed his life forever. Who really was this woman with tired eyes and a quiet smile? What was the secret behind her silence? Stay with me, because this story might just change how you look at people forever. In the middle of Port Harcourt, there stood a glamorous eatery called the Royal Spoon. A place where the wealthy came to dine and show off. The chandeliers sparkled. The food was 5-star. And the owner? Mr. Felix Osund. People called him Sir Felix. He was the kind of man that walked like time waited for him. Sharp suits. Diamond watch. Eyes like a hawk. He didn't talk much. He didn't need to. The staff respected him. Feared him, even. He had over 70 workers, cooks, servers, cleaners. And among them was Ada. She worked in the cleaning unit. She barely spoke. Every night, after closing hours, she asked to take out the trash. But instead of dumping it, she would quietly open some bags and remove the untouched leftovers. One rainy night, as the restaurant lights dimmed and the last car drove away, Mr. Felix noticed her, bending near the kitchen bins, picking through discarded plates. His eyes narrowed. Something about it didn't sit right. He didn't confront her. Instead, he waited. And when she left the back gate with 2 small plastic bags, he followed. She didn't notice. She walked fast. Head low. Mr. Felix drove slowly behind her, headlights off, through rough roads and muddy paths, until she boarded a rusty keek. He stayed close behind in his tinted SUV. 15 minutes later, the keek stopped near a block of collapsed buildings. No streetlights. No sounds. Just darkness and broken silence. Ada stepped down, still carrying the same plastic bags. Mr. Felix parked far behind. He stepped out and watched from the shadows. She entered a narrow alley and stopped before what looked like an abandoned structure. No doors. No glass. Just hollow walls and faded paint. This was her home. He felt his throat tighten. He watched as she pushed aside a curtain and entered. Then, he heard laughter. Children's laughter. 2 tiny figures ran out barefoot, straight into her arms. "Mama! You're back!" Ada dropped the food and hugged them both tightly. "I brought something," she whispered. From behind the wall, Mr. Felix could see her. She laid out the food on pieces of old newspaper. Half-eaten meat. Cold rice. Broken bread. The kids didn't care. They were starving. They devoured the meal with joy. And Ada? She just sat there, watching them eat, without touching a single bite. Her eyes were tired. Her clothes torn. But her smile? It held the kind of strength money can't buy. Mr. Felix stepped back. He turned away and wiped his face. That night, he couldn't sleep. His bed felt softer than ever, but his heart was heavy. The image of Ada and her 2 daughters wouldn't leave his mind. Why didn't she ask for help? He whispered into the darkness. By sunrise, he made a decision. The next day, Ada arrived early. She cleaned like always. Fast. Focused. Quiet. But this time, something was different. Around 11 a.m., the head chef approached her. "The boss wants to see you," he said. Ada's hand shook. Had she been caught? She wiped her apron and entered the office. "Good morning, sir," she said, eyes low. Mr. Felix looked at her. Not with anger, but with something softer. "Sit, Ada." She sat slowly, afraid. "I followed you last night," he said. Ada's eyes shot up. Her lips trembled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I wasn't stealing. I was just feeding your children," he interrupted. "I know. I saw everything." Ada began to cry. "You're a mother," he continued. "You work hard. You never asked for anything. Not even once." There was silence. Then he stood and handed her an envelope. "You're no longer a cleaner. You're now my executive assistant. You'll earn well." Ada gasped. She couldn't speak. "That's not all," he added. "I've rented an apartment for you and your girls. It's ready today. Running water, electricity, a bed, a door that locks, a place called home." Ada fell to her knees. "Thank you, sir. Thank you." But Mr. Felix wasn't done. He smiled. "I'm also enrolling your daughters in a proper school. And from now on, you'll never have to feed them trash again." That night, the old broken shack was empty. Instead, in a small, fresh-painted apartment, Ada stirred a pot of jollof rice. Real food. Real meat. The scent of hope filled the room. Her daughters danced around her. "Mommy, this is the best day ever," one shouted. Ada served 3 full plates. And this time, she ate too. For the first time in years. She tasted peace. The next morning, a black car pulled up outside. Mr. Felix called. "Take the day off, Ada," he said. "Today is yours." Ada smiled through tears. She held her girls close. And before breakfast, they all knelt down and gave thanks. It had been 3 weeks since Ada and her daughters moved into their new home. A clean house. A safe school. A better life. Thanks to the kindness of a boss who finally saw her. But just when everything seemed perfect, one small question from her youngest daughter opened the door to a past Ada had tried so hard to bury. And this time, even Mr. Felix wasn't ready for what came next. The sun was soft that morning. Ada stood by the stove, flipping pancakes, her daughter's new favorite. They were laughing, brushing each other's hair. Joy had become a habit. Then her youngest, Nina, looked up and asked, "Mommy, where's Daddy?" Ada froze. The spatula fell from her hand. For a moment, the room went quiet. She turned slowly. "Why are you asking, baby?" Nina shrugged. "Other kids have daddies. Do we?" Ada's lips trembled. Her eyes filled. She smiled, but it broke halfway. "Your daddy was someone strong. But he left before you could remember." It was only half the truth. And that half was already too heavy. Later that night, after the girls were asleep, Ada sat on the balcony with her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. She was shaking. She hadn't thought about Chaik in years. The man who promised to love her. The man who ran the moment she got pregnant. The man who never came back. She never told her daughters the full story. Maybe it was time. The next morning, Ada entered Mr. Felix's office. He smiled when he saw her. But then he noticed something. Her eyes, those brave, soft eyes, looked heavy again. "Sit," he said gently. "What's wrong?" Ada didn't speak for a moment. Then she whispered, "My daughter asked about her father." Mr. Felix leaned in. "And what did you tell her?" "That he was strong, but gone." She paused. "But the truth is, he abandoned us. When I needed him most." Silence filled the room. Mr. Felix clenched his jaw. He had seen many stories of pain. But this woman carried hers like armor. That evening, something unexpected happened. Mr. Felix knocked on Ada's door. The girls jumped in excitement. "Uncle Felix," they shouted. Ada invited him in, nervous. But he smiled. Relax, he said. I'm not here as your boss. Just someone who cares. They Saturday. The girls served him juice. Then, as if waiting all day, Nina asked again. Uncle Felix, do you know our daddy? Mr. Felix looked at Ada, asking for permission with his eyes. She nodded slowly. He took a deep breath and spoke. I don't know him, sweetheart. But I know something important. The girls leaned in. I know your mom is the strongest person I've ever met. She didn't need a man to give you love. She gave you everything, on her own. So even if your daddy's not here, you already have a hero. Her name is Ada. Ada covered her mouth. Tears rolled freely. The girl smiled, then hugged her tightly. That night, Ada wrote something in her journal. I once begged for leftovers to survive. But now, I'm full of purpose. Not because a man stayed, but because I never gave up. And because someone, finally, saw me. They used to whisper because she was poor. Now, they whispered because she was rising. Ever since Ada became the CEO's assistant, the air in the restaurant changed. Her uniform became a suit. Her voice carried weight. She no longer cleaned the floors, she walked the halls with purpose. But when people rise, ENVY starts to crawl in the shadows. And soon, cruel rumors about Ada's past began to spread like wildfire. But what hurt most? The person behind the lies was someone she once helped. It started with side eyes in the hallway. Forced smiles. Silent stares. One afternoon, as Ada walked past the kitchen, she overheard a voice. Is that not the same woman who used to pick food from the trash? Another replied, laughing. Assistant coup? Just because she has pity promotion. Ada stopped in her tracks. Her heart dropped. She turned the corner and saw them, two waitresses she used to eat lunch with. They froze. Good afternoon, Ma, one said quickly. Ada nodded and walked away, silently. But her chest ached. She had worked so hard to move forward. But the past had found a way to pull at her ankles. Later that day, she entered her office and found a folded piece of paper on her desk. It had no name. No handwriting. Just bold letters. Trash girls don't belong in glass houses. Ada stared at it. Her hand trembled. But her spirit? It stood still. That evening, Mr. Felix noticed something was off. You're quiet today, he said. Ada forced a smile. I'm okay, sir. He looked at her closely. I've seen that look before, Ada. What happened? She paused, then placed the note gently on his desk. His eyes scanned it. Silence. Then, firmly. Who gave you this? I don't know, she said softly. And maybe it doesn't matter. Mr. Felix stood slowly. Oh, but it does. The next morning, an announcement came through the restaurant speakers. All staff, report to the main hall immediately. Everyone gathered. Murmurs filled the room. Then Mr. Felix walked in, with Ada beside him. He stood on the stage. Many of you know Ada. Some of you only think you do. He paused. Ada was once a cleaner here. Yes. But let me tell you what that means. He looked around the room. She came early. Left late. Cleaned with her heart. She fed her daughters with leftover rice and dignity. She never begged, never lied, never stole. And when I saw her true strength, I promoted her. He raised his voice slightly. If anyone here thinks that's a reason to gossip or mock her, you don't belong here. Silence gripped the room. Then he looked at Ada. And one more thing. He turned back to the staff. As of today, Ada is no longer just my assistant. She is now the head of staff operations. Gasps filled the air. Ada's eyes widened. Mr. Felix smiled at her. You earned it. Later that day, as Ada entered her new office, she found another note on her desk. This one was different. It read, I was wrong. I judged you. But today, you inspired me. I want to be better. No name. Just hope. Ada had finally found her rhythm. A new home. A respected title. Her daughters were healthy, joyful, safe. But just when she thought the past was buried for good, he walked in. The man who left her when she needed him most. The man who vanished before her daughters were born. Chike. And this time, he came back with a clean shirt, soft words, and a bold request. It was a quiet Saturday morning. Ada had just finished packing her daughter's lunch when a knock came at the door. She opened it and froze. There he was. Same eyes. Same voice. Same man who disappeared 5 years ago. Hi, Ada, he said, holding a small bouquet. I came to say I'm sorry. Ada stood still. Her girls peeked from behind her. They didn't recognize him. But she would never forget. They sat in the living room. He talked, soft, calculated. I heard you're doing well now. Assistant to the CEO, right? I messed up. I was young, scared, selfish. Ada said nothing. Then came the twist. I want to be part of their lives now, he said, glancing at the girls. I'm their father. I have a right. Ada's hands tightened on her lap. Then slowly, she stood. Chike, she said, voice calm but razor sharp. You weren't scared when you walked away. You weren't confused when I slept on the floor, when I begged for leftovers, when your daughters cried from hunger. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. You were just absent. And we learned how to live without you. He looked stunned. Ada walked to the kitchen, returned with a small envelope. Here, she said. Inside is a list of schools, birthdays, and medical records. You can have that. Because I believe in truth. But don't mistake access for entitlement. She paused. You don't get to walk back in now that life looks sweet. Then she looked at the girls. You see those two? They already have a father figure. His name is Mr. Felix. He didn't give them life, he gave them love. Chike lowered his head. Ada opened the door. Now go. Not because I'm angry, but because I finally learned what I'm worth. That night, Mr. Felix called. How was your day? He asked. Ada smiled. Liberating. The restaurant was booming. The staff was tighter. The service sharper. All under Ada's new leadership as head of staff operations. But success is never safe for long. One morning, a letter arrived, cold, stamped, final. The Royal Spoon was being sued. A major client claimed they were served spoiled seafood. The media caught wind. The health inspectors showed up. In just 48 hours, the once glowing reputation began to burn. And as Mr. Felix sat in his office, fists clenched, it was Ada who stepped in. With a bold idea that could either save the business or ruin everything. That morning, chaos ruled the restaurant. Journalists hovered outside. Staff whispered. Customers cancelled bookings. Mr. Felix paced. His face pale. His voice gone. Then Ada walked in. Sir, she said calmly. Give me one chance. He looked up. A chance to fix this. He stared at her, uncertain. How? Transparency. Compassion. And truth, she said. Let me speak. Let me tell our side. Mr. Felix took a breath. Then nodded. Within hours, Ada organized a press conference in front of the restaurant. Cameras flashed. Mike stood tall. She stepped up, not as a cleaner, not as an assistant, but as a leader. "My name is Ada Yu," she began. "I joined this restaurant as a cleaner. Today, I lead our staff." She paused. The reporters leaned forward. "We've received reports about a customer's health concern. First, we're deeply sorry. We're investigating. But here's what I know: we don't run from truth. We face it." She raised her voice. "This restaurant fed me when I was broken. It gave me a second chance. And I will not let it fall without a fight." The crowd murmured. Some clapped. Ada continued, "We are launching a free weekend feeding program. For every meal you buy, one will go to a child in need. Because restaurants shouldn't only feed the rich, they should feed the future." That evening, her speech went viral. Former cleaner defends restaurant with heart. From the floor to the front lines, Ada Yuma's rise. People started walking back in. The Royal Spoon reopened. And the lawsuit? Dropped when the investigation found the client had lied. Mr. Felix called Ada into his office the next morning. When she stepped in, he stood and clapped. "No one's ever made me more proud," he said. "You didn't just save the restaurant, Ada. You saved the soul of this place." Ada smiled. "We saved it together, sir." He nodded slowly. "Let's keep building. But this time, not just food. Let's build legacy." That night, Ada sat on her new balcony. Her girls were asleep. The stars were out. She looked at the restaurant lights glowing from afar and whispered, "From leftovers to leadership? And we're just getting started."